me a copy. I don't hear my voice, I hear you.
Yes, it gets rubber stamped. It's called brand loyalty. I mean, you might get a professional poem reader who can do a better job, allegedly, but it won't have the same feeling as you do it. I mean, just like Leila was saying. When she reads her own poem, it's her own voice, with her own feelings.
That's right.
And somebody else can copy it, but it won't be the same.
That's true.
That is effort, I think.
Yeah, I believe that, yes.
What do you make of a poem, Ian?
It's a lovely poem. Well, I think it's a very difficult subject to talk about in these times.
And write poetry
because you're talking about other people's faiths and other people's views. And I think, again, it's the treading on holy ground stuff. I think there are many Muslims who will be feeling very disturbed and upset by the Paris events.
Well, you know, we had a balloon by a Muslim woman. She organized 163 or whatever the number of people dead was. Because Muslims are coming out of it now, you know. I mean, when the Charlie Hebdo thing happened, nothing much happened in Newcastle. But with this Paris killing, a lot of Muslims are coming and saying, this is not in my name. Do what you like and get arrested and killed and whatever, but don't do it in the name of the faith I follow.
But last week in America, there was a shooting in an abortion clinic. An extreme Christian went in and felt that abortion was so much against his faith that
he had to go and kill people.
He felt the need to take the life of the others who he felt were acting evilly.
But the same thing happens with animal testing. I mean, I'm against animal testing, but I wouldn't kill a human. I would talk to him, I would explain to him, I say it's not necessary, we have enough drugs, why do you torture a monkey with these things, you know. But to kill for that is going... See, what I get from Christianity is love, what I get from Buddhism is compassion, what I get from Hinduism is the individual direct... That's why Hindus have so many images of God. It was said there are 33 million gods by Tulsidas. What he meant was, as many people, so many images. And God doesn't, in Hinduism, we don't have many gods. I mean, in many Hindu homes, you'll find Jesus. You'll find a picture of Makkah. Because coming from India, where we are quite pluralist, I have no problem in going into a church. I mean, I went into the church nearby. There are black guys singing Southwest Mountain, really giving... I'm just a little Indian guy. They're all staring at me saying, what are you doing here? But I like being a different person. It's like being a terrorist. I like going into territories where nobody wants me. Because that's how you break that barrier. Would you agree? Because you've been to some interesting places. How did you feel like in Zafar's place or in the church? Your own thoughts.
Yes, and when I go, I can feel, it's as you say, you feel you're treading on holy ground. And because it's someone else's sacred space. And in fact, I read a great book by a woman called Creating a Sacred Space, and it's about making your own home sacred, because we can do it for ourselves. And I think it's a great privilege when somebody invites you into the place that they
consider very
holy. Yes.
I think many of the people who've worked within the churches who have helped to move us towards pluralism have had exactly those sort of experiences. As an American theologian I was mentioning before called Paul Nitter, who now calls himself a Buddhist Christian, or is he a Christian Buddhist? He's not quite sure which it is.
Because the world is coming together.
He spent so long meditating with Buddhists, he now feels that he's been accepted.
And at one time the church said meditation is a very Hindu thing, and it's for the devil. I mean, I was in Bangalore, because my wife used to keep running away, I have to tell you on air. I was chasing after him to the Vivekanand Kendra. And at 4 in the morning, Sadana Nananam Shivoham, we are meditating on Shiva's image. And next to me is a Catholic nun with a proper habit and everything. And I said, how do you feel? She says, I'm an Indian. How can I ignore Hinduism? I was born in, my grandfather was Hindu. I'm a Christian. I can't leave the culture. I get so much peace coming here. So in India, you find a lot of that. Salman Khan is a Muslim. He carries the Ganesha statue. Because in India, I think people still understand that religion is a metaphor. You know, India had no religion until the other religions came and told them that we are different from you. Otherwise, it was just a way of life. Seriously, there's nothing called Hinduism. It's called Sanatan Dharma. Do you know that there's nothing called Hinduism? And it's very interesting. You've got Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, and the rest of the religions. We don't have Christianism, we don't have Mohammedanism, we don't have Jewishism. They're proper religions, and the Hindus in India only have isms. But these are all little tricks to make you feel small. I really truly believe that. The more I research it, wasn't that Macaulay who went to India and said we want them looking like Indian, but the heart has to be and the intellect has to be English, not Christian but English.
Yeah, there's a story from Desmond Tutu in South Africa, in a different place, He wrote the Archbishop of Canterbury's Advent book this year. Just a little thing for Christians if they want to buy it and think about. And he starts the book by saying, you know, there's an old story about colonialism. And the story is that the white man appears in your area and brings the Bible and tells you to sit down and kneel and pray together. And by the end of the prayer, we have the Bible and he has the land. But that's the end of the story. But he's, in his words, but we got the good bit. We actually got something we didn't already know. So he felt, and that's the first time I'd ever heard someone from that part of the world say, actually,
we got the Bible, and
we're quite grateful that people came and spread a word to us. And I don't think that's the view of the vast majority of people, but that was his particular.
No, but coming from a land whose religion is like by carbon dating 30,000 years
Absolutely.
old. In India, they've carbon dated the stones from the sea. This is Krishna's time. Now, whether you believe in Hindu Dharma or not, it doesn't matter. But if the carbon dating says also Harappa, which is sadly now in Pakistan, a Muslim country, is the origin of me. That's where the Indus Valley culture comes from. And the animals were first domesticated in Brahminabad, another place which most Pakistanis don't know about. So there's a very sad problem between religion and culture. I think culture grows from the ground and the river and the mountain.
Yes.
So how you eat, how you marry, all these things are based on the culture.
I mean, there's a debate within theology about because as a Christian, I have two books within my Bible. I have the Old Testament, I have the New Testament, and you draw a line at the start of the Common Era when Jesus came along. Now, within the Old Testament, there's quite a debate about what came first, what was written down first.
What? Was it New Testament came before the Old Testament?
No. So within the Old Testament, was it the law that came from God and Moses that was written down first, or was it the wisdom of the people?
Okay.
As you were discussing.
So that is culture more.
Yeah,
from the ground up.
Yes. So there are 5 or 6 books of culture within the Old Testament, books like Job, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, which just talk about the wisdom of the people. And there are the books of the law, what you should follow. And there's still a debate about what came first, what was most important to the Israelites at the time, 200, 300, 400, 500 years before the Common Era. And what was first? What was most important? Was it the word of God written down in law, or was it in fact the wisdom of
practice?
The people?
Yes.
Still a debate going on.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you're talking about the nun and
meditating.
For me, I meditate because it gives me peace of mind from which I move into a place of inspiration and creation. And that for me is very important. And when I'm in that, I don't even notice anything else. And it's yes.
Say it.
Yes, it feels important, and I hadn't realised people have been seeing me because I live in a corner house, so we've got windows on both sides, and they've been watching me as I'm working, and so they keep coming in and saying, "What are you doing?" And for me, it's getting into that space and then writing.
And it is the big debate about what you do. Again, a fellow theologian, if I can call myself that. Spent some time working in El Salvador, where there's a great deal of war, great deal of tension going on, and was trying to work for the peace and justice within that area, but came to the conclusion that working for peace and justice, many people were having to pick up guns and physically fight for peace and justice. And he had great difficulty in working out that how, as a practicing Christian, you should be using violence against
to prevent violence.
Oppressive group of people. And again, I suppose this is the debate partly in Parliament today, is it not? That people are feeling, should they be using violence in the form of bombing in order to stop other violence happening? This theologian's conclusion was, he felt that what he had to do to search for peace and justice was to be peace and justice. Which
exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
Exactly your conclusion.
Yeah. And Nelson Mandela, I think, is one of the prime examples of this.
But he was a terrorist, allegedly, at one time.
Yes. Until he was
incarcerated. And that's where
his transformation.
It's true, but medically speaking, the human brain, the 85% of the raw material or the neurological material in our head, that only works when you're not in a fight or flight modality. If you're shooting at people, whether you're Mr. Putin or whether you're the bomb people now hiding in mosques, you are in a place of fear. So whether it's fight, flight or fright, you can't think straight, you can't think creatively. And you mentioned the word creativity. Creativity only happens when your brain is calm. I actually have someone getting a PET scan, photon emission therapy or something, scan of a human brain, while they're in a meditative state, which we use a computer for to show them equal breathing. So you don't have to be Hindu, you don't have to sit cross-legged in the lotus position or have a long beard and sandalwood on your forehead. You just breathe in 5 seconds in and out, because just physiology. When you do that, your brain maximum works in the central place, which Hindus call Shiva's third eye. It's just a part of the brain which is the chief executive of the whole brain. So I simply don't understand either how the people who made the pyramids cut through stone that wide, or in India, Ajanta Ellora caves that are like 3,000-4,000 years old. They're inside a mountain, and there's 2 holes, and at equinox the sun shines through. Where does this precision come from? Yesterday on Facebook there was a pillar in India, in a church, in a temple. See, I don't see the difference anyway. You could put a cloth, so the pillar is kind of hanging from the ceiling. They didn't have cement. Where does all this come? Or the Mayan culture and their stuff. Do you believe in people being before us humans and being superior or from another planet, and where does all that throw the creation and create? So how do you put science and creativity and evolution together? How do you do it personally?
I mean, as you pointed out before, I was a physics teacher,
yes.
mainly. That's my main, where I came from. But I've never seen any tension at all between a faith in a creator God and the physics of Einstein and quantums. I think it's perfectly fits in together. I think God, as you pointed out, Nancy, is a God of love. I think God is there as the creator of the universe, and God is there to love all people. And I see no tension at all between that and the idea of quantum physics.
Because most people do, because quantum physics is beyond normal physics, isn't it?
Quantum physics
1 + 1 is 2 most of the time, but not always.
Oh yeah, it's an exciting world.
And somebody is saying that dark holes is fake. There's no dark hole. Some Indian guy in America is now proved that the dark hole is exiting something.
Well, one of the joys.
Yes, it is.
One of the joys of science is that it changes the whole time. You know, the whole idea of what we think about it and what our current theories are. Tomorrow, the next day, those things could be.
So science and culture moves on with time.
Absolutely.
But religion doesn't.
I'd like to think that the ideas of religion, how religion works, can change and can develop. Certainly over the last 30, 40, it's 50 years this year since the Roman Catholic Church suddenly declared that other religions had validity to them. 50 years this year.
Oh, really?
It's 50 years this year since the first Race Relations Act, which in fact, 8th of December.
So they're all connected,
so
really, in our
all
psyche.
of these things, culture and religion will move on together. In many cases, culture is ahead of religion. Occasionally, religion is ahead of culture, but not very often. And so it is all part of the developing world in which we're in.
I'd like you to comment on this experience. I went for my haircut 2 weeks ago, and there was a young, bright Pakistani fellow sitting, and they all know me, they've heard my voice, so they have no problem with it. The young ones definitely do not have a problem. And he was getting this funny haircut, you know, like a footballer with style and everything. I'm paying a lot of money. I just pay my $5 and just get any damn thing done.
It looks lovely, by the way.
Yeah, thank you very kindly. So does yours.
Thank you.
I'm
Mine-
just waiting.
mine's red.
Now you've put the image in my head. Now I can picture you. I'm
Okay.
waiting to see
So
you.
I asked this Pakistani young guy, I said, where do you practice Islam and where are you British? You know, I asked this very difficult question. He said, my heart of hearts, I'm as Muslim as anyone. Okay, I don't pray 5 times, but I don't drink, I'm married, I don't look at other women, I practice all that. My wife doesn't wear a burqa or anything, and yet she's a very good Muslim. So as far as that is concerned. But on the street, when I step out of this shop, of the hairdresser's shop, Zach's shop, Zaf's shop, I'm as British as any Britisher. I follow the rule to the T. I don't try to impose my cultural Islamic values on anyone. And I found that a beautiful answer from a young 20-year-old guy.
It's great. I mean, the question you just asked me about religion and science, I think, is mirrored in the question you just asked that Pakistani man. They are 2 different dimensions. Britishness and faith are not 2 things which are tied up together. They can't.
And British values are the same as good Islamic values, as good Hindu values, as good Chinese values. They're just values.
And we are. You know, one of my tutors keeps on saying, you know, the context is everything here. You know, it says here in this story that this particular thing is good practice, but it said it 2,500 years ago, and it said it in a culture where the sun shone unbearably every day. It said it in a place where water was
scarce,
etc., etc. So these words here in this part of the Old Testament were written in that context. And our challenge is, if they have any meaning for us today, is to translate that into what on earth is the meaning.
And heaven and hell, you know, again in a Catholic school, I thought hell is a place of hot and burning only because these religions come from a hot and burning place. But But Hindus don't have a concept of hell. Except our living hell, how we live in torment ourselves with negative thoughts and hating people and carrying.
The Judaic religions, as Yahwism emerged, had the concept of heaven. God created heaven and earth, but also a concept of a sort of, well, purgatory or a non-place, and they called it Sheol.
What is that? Sheol.
Sheol, S-H-E-O-L, Sheol. And Sheol was the place where your soul went when you were dead. So you might have had salvation in your life of the day. You might have been saved from famine, saved from disease. But when you died, your soul went to this non-place of Sheol. It wasn't a hell. It just wasn't a real place. And so as Yahwism, in 2,500 years ago, developed into Judaism and into Christianity, this idea of the non-place changed into the opposite of heaven. So you either went to heaven.
So you can't be in neutral gear, you have to be in reverse gear.
That's right. So that concept of hell.
How do you see my concept of God and man? We call humans Atma, means a spirit, entrapped in a body temporarily. So I'm a spirit, right?
Yes.
And I compare it with soap bubbles. Inside the soap bubble is a lot of oxygen and nitrogen, just like outside. And I'm that soap bubble, that my ego. And once that bursts, I'm combined with Paramatma, the ultimate soul. So in my view, and you don't have to ascribe to it, and how do you see it, I would want to know. I'm a soap bubble, you're a soap bubble, she is a soap bubble, she is a soap bubble. When it pops, it's just part of the same. How do you see that concept? Atma, Paramatma. So there's no God out there except all of the creation together.
The Christian view would be that there is an essence to a person, which they would probably call a soul. And the idea is in the Christian world that that soul can continue after death. So there is a continuity. So there's not a popping that goes on at
He
death.
does it better than me. He's drunk a lot of champagne.
Teacher, that's what the first thing teacher training. So that concept
I
of
love
the
you as
soul
my teacher, because you're funny.
carries on.
Okay.
And we don't believe in reincarnation, but we do believe in that resurrection of the soul into a different life beyond death.
So reincarnation, there have been so many stories, particularly in Rajasthan, of young children telling their parents, I was killed here and take me there, and they have no contact, and this is before mobile phones and Facebook and all that. This is about 20, 30, 40 years ago. How do you explain that?
I don't. I would have to spend some time sitting, thinking, and even praying
Think
about it.
how is this? Because it just defies physics, it just defies faith, it defies everything, except the Hindu Dharma, which says it's okay to be recycled and to become better, and one day you reach a salvation by not needing to come back to this awful place called planet.
I mean, the majority of Christians would say that there is a wall between life and death, that you could move through one way, through a door, but you can't, you don't come
re-enter.
back, you don't re-enter, and you don't get contact from what some people call the
But in Hindus, there's a concept when Arjuna asked Krishna in Mahabharata, what is the difference between you and me? He said, I have many lives, you have many lives, I remember them all, you can't. So if you can remember, like past life regression, and all these kind of things are springing up, and I find them quite exciting because they're challenging to Christianity, definitely, but even to Hindu Dharma. How can you remember your past life? And yet my best friend, his wife, she does angel workshops in which she regresses you into a Tibetan monk or something. How do you two see it? As a bit more modern kind of religionists with your own kind of brand of faith?
Well, I was a Christian, and I still believe of myself as a Christian because I believe in Jesus. And the path that he showed, and the path of love. So from that aspect, I still think of myself as a Christian.
Sure.
However, my belief system is radically changed from the time.
So you're a radical then?
Well,
no, the word radical you're using is a very different concept now from what you're saying.
Yes, it's greatly changed.
Okay.
And what you were saying about the earlier things about Sheol, you called it that place?
The non-place.
The non-place. It fits in with what I'm learning through studying the Course in Miracles, because it's illusory. Because Course in Miracles teaches that all life, everything is an illusion, and that anything which takes the form, which takes any shape or form, is part of the illusion. So when you move on to a different level, and you're still in a form shape, that's part of the illusion. You might move on again, I have no idea. I don't understand it. All I know is that I believe that this is a form of truth. In fact, it is, to my way of thinking, it is my truth. I believe it. I believe that although I can feel this and I can hit it and it feels very real, At the same time, I understand on a different level that it is part of an illusion which I myself
I'm creating.
I'm creating, and I'm choosing to give belief to this because I haven't yet reached that state of mind which can see beyond that and can see the reality of it. I am lucky enough to have met in my lifetime 2 people in the Course in Miracles conference and one in the Way of the Heart festival.
What conference?
The Course in Miracles conference.
Course of Miracles.
Course in Miracles.
A course in C-O-U-R-S-E in Miracles.
Yes.
And is there a website?
Yes. Now.
Please.
Yes.
If you type course in miracles, you will get to some.
You'll
Okay.
find it.
Because I want the listeners to at least have access to it.
All things that take the shape of form are part of really the purpose of your mind, because from your mind you project all things, and it's the whole. Well, the core belief system actually is that we all have at the base of us, beyond our understanding, we have a fear of God. And the reason we have a fear of God is because we feel that God will get us. And the reason we feel that God will get us is because we feel that we have created everything we see, and we've created
And responsible.
it, and we are responsible for this. And it's not part of God's creation. It's part of our creation, but we are part of God.
There's a Hindu saint who said, there's the God that creates us, and there's the God we create.
Yes.
And that ties in beautifully with what you're saying.
Yes. So that we create everything we see, and we bring together everything that we do is a prayer. Even when you go and have a hot dog, it's a prayer. It's an answered prayer. Everything that you do in life is a form of prayer. So whatever happens into your life, you've drawn to yourself through prayer. And you have to deal with it through thinking about it differently. If it's not what you want in your life, then you have to change your thoughts about it.
Change your mindset.
You have to change your thoughts about it, because you are the creator of your life.
So you're very responsible and you're very powerful.
Yes.
So don't just leave it to God and say, it will happen by itself.
That's right.
You take responsibility.
You are responsible for it. But overseeing all things and the way back to God is to place your hands into the Holy Spirit, knowing that you don't understand anything.
Yes, to be humble
you don't know
about
anything.
it.
You don't understand anything. Everything you've learned is not really worth anything, because it's part of this illusion. Everything you learn is part of the illusion. Therefore, it's from the brain, but it's not from the mind. The mind is what is by God, is from God. The brain has nothing to do with it.
The brain is just a box.
The brain's just a box. But what we think, we don't really think.
What we think,
we think is a load of tosh.
Okay.
What we really think is what comes from God. And because we can't understand everything that is, or how one act or one word interacts with everything that is, because we have no concept of that, we have to therefore ask the Holy Spirit's guidance in any decisions that we make. Because we don't know. How can we know what we do?
We are too small to understand
exactly.
the big
We don't
picture.
understand anything at
I was
all.
saying to Ian before we joined in, I said, we have prophet moments. The prophets completely understood the past and the future and the present, everything. But we also get some moments, and if you're prepared to grab it, you've got something. And if you think, I just have. So many times I ring people and I can't get them because they're ringing me at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there is a psychic connection. And what do you make, Ian, of crop circles and things like that?
I've never made a crop circle,
No.
so I'm not quite sure.
What about flying saucers?
I suppose.
Are there extraterrestrial beings?
Okay, I'll now wear my Christian stroke physicist hat about this, and I'll tell you a story about Whitley Bay Beach. You ready?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, here you go. If we imagine ourselves sitting on a planet, and that planet is a single grain of sand, it's probably about the right scale to say we might be a single grain of sand on Whitley Bay Beach. Let's imagine that there are other grains of sand, and that all those grains of sand are surrounding us. And we can see, and we can talk to, we can
touch them
from where we are. And I suspect that within the universe there are probably maybe 50, 60 other grains of sand that also have people on them. We're on Spice FM sitting in a studio talking about this today, and whether there are other grains of sand who would like to talk to them. But I suspect they might not all be on Wicklow Bay Beach.
Mm.
They might be on Tynemouth Sands, maybe Southend-on-Sea. Who knows? Even South African beaches.
Mm.
And I think the challenge is, or the impossibility is, from one grain of sand finding those 50 other grains of sand in the billions and billions and billions of grains of sand in the universe. I don't think the idea that there might be other sentient life forms in the world in any way adds to or takes away from the theology of a God, of a loving God. I think it's perfectly possible that a loving God can create other worlds with other sentient beings and has a relationship with them.
So where would Adam and Eve go, who were created for us on this planet?
Adam and Eve's a lovely story which teaches us an awful lot about God's love and how God wants us to be in relationship with him. But I don't believe that there was a chap called Adam.
There's no individual personal chap.
Which means man, or
a
woman
man
called Eve. I think it is a very powerful story which helps us to understand.
So what do you make of Eve being born of Adam's rib?
I think it's this is where I should really go on my knees and apologise again for as part of being a Christian. The legacy of some of the oppression of females throughout Judaic Christian history is
and in Hinduism and in Buddhism and everywhere
it's
else.
terrible. I mean,
The misogynistic streak.
I was humbled to be at a meeting at the Sea Gurdwara recently, where there were two young women basically telling us how compared to British culture and Judeo-Christian culture, they felt much more liberated and empowered.
Yes. I mean, the men and women have exactly the same name. You can
Absolutely.
be Manjeet Kaur, a woman, and Manjeet Singh, a man. But there's no other such religion. You give man and woman the same status.
I sit in seminars feeling so guilty as a white British male from Judeo-Christian background that we've oppressed women through the Bible, through many ages. Yes, there were female prophets. Yes, there were female people of history.
And Gaia, which is Mother Earth,
Absolutely.
and all that kind of thing.
The personification of wisdom, which appears in the books, is written down as female and is written down as the first thing that God may have
And
created.
Hellenic culture has a lot to offer for women.
Yes, but the secondary role which women have played throughout Christian and Judaic history is a one that I'm still guilty and ashamed about. I try and do more washing up to atone for it.
of your soul?
Have you got
What
a
more
brother?
can I do? What more can I do? And that's part of my role in life. I do genuinely, I'm not joking about it, but I do genuinely feel that as a white British male, really guilty that the culture that I'm a main part of has demeaned women over so many years.
It's a shame we should waste your time in so much guilt.
Well, just acknowledges it from time to time, tries to do a little more washing up and ironing.
Okay, in my house there's a little temple, and in it is a body called Ardhanarishwari. Ardh means half, Nar means man, Ishwari is God, and the other part is woman. So it's a statue where one side is Shiva, the other side is Parvati. That's the only statue in mine. It's just a brass thing. Half is man. But we are all men and women. Each one of us here has a man and a woman inside us.
I think that's true.
And how much we men respect the woman, the female, the creative, the poetic, the soft and gentle, and how much these two ladies respect the masculinity of going out and speaking on radio and doing the thing in London and this and that and the other, and writing your poetry. That's a masculine task, isn't it? In stereoscopic, stereophonic, stereotypical. Something stereo.
Maybe that's a good point to get Nancy to speak.
Yes.
Are we in stereo?
So tell us about your masculinity. You look like a woman.
Well, I don't know. I've always thought of men being tougher and stronger, but really, they are all just belief systems.
Yes.
They're not necessarily.
You go to an old people's home, there'll be 50 women and 2 blokes, lucky guys, but the others are dead with strokes and overwork and alcohol and so on.
Thank you for painting my future so
well, no, I hope you're the only bloke with 30 women around you, and that's before you go to heaven, you know. It's all in Whitley Way old people's home.
You're absolutely right. I visit my mother regularly. My mother sadly has Alzheimer's now, and that's exactly the part of the care home. 2 blokes and 40 other women.
But the poor guys don't know what they have to do with themselves because they've lost the plot as well.
That's a sad thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So, you know, do you also not feel, being a physicist, as science gives us more and more tools, and the physical power of the male is irrelevant?
I think I'm delighted it's going in that direction. And I think that the main concern these days is to try and help young men recognise that their physicality does not give them rights upon less physical women.
Or less physical men even.
Indeed, yes, you're absolutely right. Jermaine Greer used to talk about the shout of testosterone, the fact that the male hormone courses around male veins and shouts at them, "That's a pretty woman, that's a pretty woman, that's a pretty woman." What do you do with her? And I can recognise that. I can recognise that in young people.
You've been there,
and
have you?
Men.
You've been there, have you?
I have noticed beautiful women. There are beautiful women.
Your
in this
wife's
room
going to listen to this.
No, she's busy studying.
Oh, okay.
But that is part of the male nature, and I think there was again a post on Facebook this week, which is how many men, when looking at their young children, they will talk to their daughters about how they should behave and how they should dress.
But don't tell the men.
How many men, how many women, how many parents will talk to the young boys?
In the first speech that Narendra Modi, who's much disliked in the world, especially in India, his first speech says it is very easy for you to text your daughter, phone your daughter, where are you, it's 8 p.m. and so on. But that girl will be raped by your son. When do you ask your son, where have you been? Why do you look so dizzy? Have you taken alcohol? Who are you mixing with? So in a very subtle way, men and women allow their men to misbehave, but not their daughters. The daughters are precious, they're objects, you have to look after them. But the boys, it's all right, he's a bit of a lad. And in India, this thing is a very important topic,
yes.
And there are a lot of Hindu and Muslim women and Christian women coming together and saying, forget your religions. The biggest problem we have is that we are women. So in India, the women are clubbing together. There are two very powerful women in the Indian ministry, and they're just amazing. One woman, she actually says, tell me if you are in any country and you're lost, text me directly or tweet me directly, and I'll give you, say if you're in Saudi and your employer doesn't like you, it doesn't matter if you're Muslim, Hindu or Christian or whatever, he won't give your passport back. And she said, no, you just text me and let me know, and within 18 hours you'll have papers in your hand to leave the country. Now that's the kind of woman, now she's doing a very masculine thing, but she's able to conquer the world with her strength. The other one is an HRD minister. So I think for a change in India, the women are actually regaining the position, which is supposed to be a Hindu country with all so many goddesses. But in reality, we don't respect women. We actually rape them.
I think in schools, the ones I've worked in, particularly over the last 20 years, the bullying word has come to the fore much more, and there's been a much wider understanding of what bullying means. I think when I started teaching in the 1980s, bullying meant one person thumping another and taking their dinner money. These days, the much wider understanding involves oppression of somebody else's rights, oppression of people of what they are, and certainly in my last 5 years in school, physical bullying was virtually zero, was virtually unknown. But to penetrate someone's bedroom with an unpleasant message on their mobile phone or their telephone or their computer, it's right at the heart of them where they feel the most.
And they're very delicate at that time. They're not like you and me, you can take a bit of a criticism.
I mean, if you put your clothes on, you go out of the house, you're braced against the weather, you have an attitude towards the people that you meet, you can have defences there. But with an electronic world,
you penetrate right into the bedroom, as you're rightly pointing out.
Heart, right into the bedroom of a young person. And so all the schools I worked in certainly broadened out the understanding of what a power relationship meant and what bullying actually meant in terms of male-female, male-male, female-female interactions.
We are nearly at 1:30 where we will be finishing. I want another poem, please.
Me a copy. I don't hear my voice, I hear you.
Yes, it gets rubber stamped. It's called brand loyalty. I mean, you might get a professional poem reader who can do a better job, allegedly, but it won't have the same feeling as you do it. I mean, just like Leila Hussain. When she reads her own poem, it's her own voice with her own feelings.
That's right.
And somebody else can copy it, but it won't be the same.
That's true.
That is effort, I think.
Yeah, I believe that, yes.
What do you make of a poem, Ian?
It's a lovely poem. Well, I think it's a very difficult subject to talk about in these times.
And write poetry about it.
Because you're talking about other people's faiths and other people's views. And I think, again, it's the treading on holy ground stuff. I think there are many Muslims who will be feeling very disturbed and upset by the Paris events.
Well, you know, we had a balloon by a Muslim woman. She organized 163 or whatever the number of people dead was. Because Muslims are coming out of it now, you know. I mean, when the Charlie Hebdo thing happened, nothing much happened in Newcastle. But with this proper habit and everything. And I said, how do you feel? She says, I'm an Indian. How can I ignore Hinduism? I was born in, my grandfather was Hindu. I'm a Christian. I can't leave the culture. I get so much peace coming here. So in India, you find a lot of that. Salman Khan is a Muslim. He carries the Ganesha statue. Because in India, I think people still understand that religion is a metaphor. You know, India had no religion until the other religions came and told them that we are different from you. Otherwise, it was just a way of life. Seriously, there's nothing called Hinduism. It's called Sanatan Dharma. Do you know that there's nothing called Hinduism? And it's very interesting. You've got Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, and the rest of the religions. We don't have Christianism, we don't have Mohammedanism, we don't have Jewishism. They're proper religions, and the Hindus in India only have isms. But these are all little tricks to make you feel small. I really truly believe that.
Because we can do it for ourselves. And I think it's a great privilege when somebody invites you into the place that they
consider very
holy. Yes.
I think many of the people who've worked within the churches who have helped to move us towards pluralism have had exactly those sort of experiences. As an American theologian I was mentioning before called Paul Nitter, who now calls himself a Buddhist Christian, or is he a Christian Buddhist? He's not quite sure which it is.
Because the world is coming together.
He spent so long meditating with Buddhists, he now feels that he's been accepted.
And at one time the church said meditation is a very Hindu thing, and it's for the devil. I mean, I was in Bangalore because my wife used to keep running away. I have to tell you on air. I was chasing after him to the Vivekanand Kendra, and at 4 in the morning, Sadana Nananam Shivoham, we are meditating on Shiva's image. And next to me is a Catholic nun with a wrist killing. A lot of Muslims are coming and saying, this is not in my name. Do what you like and get arrested and killed and whatever, but don't do it in the name of the faith I follow.
But last week in America, there was a shooting in an abortion clinic. An extreme Christian went in and felt that abortion was so much against his faith that
he had to go and kill people.
He felt the need to take the life of the others who he felt were acting evilly.
But the same thing happens with animal testing. I mean, I'm against animal testing, but I wouldn't kill a human. I would talk to him, I would explain to him, I say it's not necessary, we have enough drugs, why do you torture a monkey with these things, you know. But to kill for that is going... See, what I get from Christianity is love, what I get from Buddhism is compassion, what I get from Hinduism is the individual direct... That's why Hindus have so many images of God. It was said that 33 million gods by Tulsidas. What he meant was, as many people, so many images. And God doesn't, in Hinduism, we don't have many gods. I mean, in many Hindu homes, you'll find Jesus. You'll find a picture of Makkah. Because coming from India, where we are quite pluralist, I have no problem in going into a church. I mean, I went into the church nearby. There are black guys singing Southwest Mountain, really giving... I'm just a little Indian guy. They're all staring at me saying, what are you doing here? But I like being a different person. It's like being a terrorist. I like going into territories where nobody wants me. Because that's how you break that barrier. Would you agree? Because you've been to some interesting places. How did you feel like in Zafar's place or in the church? Your own thoughts.
Yes, and when I go, I can feel, it's as you say, you feel you're treading on holy ground. And because it's someone else's sacred space. And in fact, I read a great book by a woman called Creating a Sacred Space, and it's about making your own home sacred.